Electric cooperatives are a big part of the $364 billion U.S. electric utility industry. America's not-for-profit rural electric cooperatives are dedicated to providing safe, reliable, and affordable energy to more than 56% of the nation. NRECA leaders are currently in Nashville for the association's 2018 annual meeting. And joining us now is Indiana Electric Cooperatives President Tom VanParis and CEO of Sequatchie Valley Electric Cooperative. We have Mike Partin. And let's start with why electric cooperatives are taking on the issues of rural broadband internet accessibility. It's a big one.
Yeah, from our standpoint, we think electric cooperatives are ideally positioned to help solve this problem. We're already involved in the local communities. We're part of what rural America is all about. And actually, we are the infrastructure folks as it relates to bringing electricity to rural America over 80 years ago. So given that, our co-op business model, which allows our nonprofit status to help explore these kinds of opportunities, we think we're well positioned for this.
Okay, well, that's great to hear because there's a lot of uncertainty out there, and especially when you talk about precision farming, precision agriculture, that demand needs to be met. And, you know, it's these guys' livelihoods in many cases. Let's talk about why else broadband access is important in rural communities.
Well, there are several reasons why it's important. It's quality of life. It goes to education, to health care. The list goes on and on. Economic development is a huge driver. We, as electric cooperatives, as Tom says, we're positioned in the right place to drive this cause. We have infrastructure already in place that has been going to the last mile for 80 years. That's how we got into this business. Because no one else would go into rural America. And so we stepped up. And we're at the same threshold today. Electric co-ops see the need. Our members are asking for that connectivity. And so that's what brings us to the table.
Okay, now let's talk about how this all feeds into economic development in rural areas.
Well, it's an absolute key in terms of an absolute necessity to drive economic development. All kinds of businesses, industries, whether they're small or large, the broadband internet access is such an integral part in terms of the success of those businesses. And so having access to broadband not only helps from a commerce standpoint and economic development standpoint, but also the quality of life to attract workers and to attract families and other individuals as well, just to help making sure that they're doing the best they can.
You know, we've been talking for a number of years, all of us in rural America, about how do we attract a younger generation to rural America and how do we keep that generation. And I think broadband is part of the answer to cracking that code. I'm a director at Southeast Tennessee Industrial Development Association. You know, and when we have industrial prospects coming, we may have the best looking site. We may have all these things put in place. The first question they ask is not, is there water there? It's not, is there enough electricity there? The question now they ask is broadband available? And what kind of speeds can we have? You know, we live in an age of e-commerce. And without that access, doesn't matter if we have the best skilled labor, it doesn't matter if we have the best site and the most electricity, an abundant supply ever. If there's not broadband internet access, they're going to go somewhere else.
And to your point, you know, from the commerce standpoint, in Indiana, we've talked to realtor associations, and you know, for so many years, in terms of home locations, it's all been about location, location, whether it be from workforce opportunities, whether it be from education. Well, now one of the key components in terms of deciding where to live is based on, is there broadband access in those neighborhoods, in those areas in which they're seeking to live.
How big of an issue is this in your respective states?
It's been a huge issue for us legislative-wise. We, thanks to our governor and legislature and a lot of hard work with co-op members and co-op employees, we were able last year to allow co-ops to get into the business to serve broadband to our rural community. So the biggest hurdle now is more funding than anything else.
Yeah.
It's a huge issue in Indiana as well for many of the same reasons. Funding issues, economic development, and to make sure that rural America, or in our state, rural Indiana, doesn't fall further and further behind in comparison to the urban areas.
Talk about some of the obstacles that you have to overcome to make this happen.
Well, we serve rural parts of America, and that's a huge obstacle. You know, my cooperative is close to Chattanooga, and they have a density of about 60 customers a mile. Well, my co-op's down there about 10 customers a mile, and a lot of our counterparts across the country are 3 and 4 customers a mile. So the density drives the economics of being able to take broadband to rural America. And that's where funding is going to have to be a key component of that. That's a huge issue for us.
Absolutely. The same thing in Indiana. In terms of so many of our cooperatives now are looking at broadband in terms of whether to be involved in partnerships or in the actual deployment all the way to the home. What it comes down to is what do the financial models look like and how can you make this work given some of the density issues.
And we have members that are calling us every day wanting access. And that's about what our mission is. Our mission is about service to those customers at the last mile that nobody else has wanted to serve. That's our business model, and so that's the direction we're headed.
Oh, we're happy to hear that. Thank you so much for joining us, both of you. Really appreciate the update. Tom VanParis and Mike Partin with the National Rural Electric Co-op. Really appreciate your time today. And of course, we're going to have more. Be sure to stay tuned as we continue to sit down with more National Rural Electric CEOs throughout the day.